The Be Quiet Pure Base 500DX is a mid-tower case that's focused around airflow and, in my opinion, good looks. It sells for about $100 US, which means it's probably going to be considered affordable by a lot of different system builders, and maybe even those on a budget. So let's see what $100 US can get us with the 500DX. The Pure Base 500DX is available in black and white and features a mesh front panel for high airflow, and it also has some RGB lighting, and those are the two main features that really separate the 500DX from the original Pure Base 500. And that's a good thing because the original Pure Base 500 wasn't really known for having the best airflow. The dimensions are 232 millimeters wide, 463 millimeters tall, and 453 millimeters long, and it's made from a combination of steel and ABS plastic. Overall, the build quality feels good. It's actually really strong and sturdy. The main side panel is made from 4 millimeters thick tempered glass, and it's held in place with 4 pre-installed thumb screws. The other side is just a plain solid panel with 2 thumb screws and some soft sound dampening material on the inside. The mesh front panel is removable just by pulling on the bottom, and right behind that we've got a dust filter covering the entire front opening. Up front we've got a pre-installed 140mm Pure Wings 2 fan with enough space for an additional 140mm fan, or you can swap these out for 3 120mm fans. There's some electrical contacts that pass power onto the front panel RGB lighting, and that means there's no need for wires, and that's pretty awesome because I've used cases before where you actually have to connect or disconnect wires when removing your case's front panel, and that can be a real pain and kind of get on your nerves after a while. The front panel's got a lighting control button, headphone and mic jacks, a power button, USB 3.0, and a USB Type-C Gen 2 port. Up top, we've got a large opening for airflow, and it's covered with a magnetic dust filter. There's a pre-installed 140mm fan up here with enough room for an additional 140, or you can swap these out for 2 120s. And there's also a set of LED lights hiding up here as well. Around back, we've got a removable PSU mount, 7 expansion slots, motherboard I/O cutout, and another 140mm Pure Wings 2 fan. And it does look like they included some mounting locations for a 120mm fan back here if you wanted to downsize that 140. On the bottom, we've got 4 feet with rubber pads and another removable dust filter that covers the entire bottom section. On the inside, we've got room for ATX, micro ATX, and mini ITX motherboards, but space is pretty limited, so that means eATX is going to be out of the question for this case. There's mounts for 2 SSDs that face forward so they'll be visible in your build, and also a cable management channel to help hide some of your cables. The bottom's covered by a ventilated PSU shroud with some cutouts for cable routing, and there's support for radiators up to 360mm in the front, 240mm in the top, and up to 140mm in the rear mounting location. The space behind the motherboard tray is a little bit tight, but it's still manageable. There's about 2 centimeters of clear space between the side panel and the motherboard tray to route all of your cables. The front-facing SSD mounting tray is removable with a single thumb screw. We've got a removable hard drive cage that can fit up to 2 3.5-inch drives, and then there's another removable SSD tray that can fit 2 more 2.5-inch drives. So with all the mounting options available, you can actually cram quite a bit of storage into this case, even though it's just a mid-tower. And Be Quiet also included a ton of cable tie-down points and also some Velcro straps to keep all your cables nice and organized. Shout out to Be Quiet because they sent over a power supply and a cooler so that I could show you what a full build looks like inside the 500DX. Check this out. Building in the 500DX was pretty similar to a lot of other mid-tower cases where, that mid-tower form factor always feels a little bit confined and a little bit space restricted in my opinion when I'm building, especially around the power supply where you've got all your cables and all that sort of stuff. And also the ATX motherboard felt like it just barely fit into its place inside the case. But at the same time, it's not all bad because you do get a nice, clean, sleek, and compact system build. And I think Be Quiet did a really good job with the airflow. You can feel a lot of air moving both inside and outside of the case, and that's going to make it suitable for some high-end hardware and even some overclocking. One thing to keep in mind here is radiator support. This case supports a lot of different radiator sizes like we talked about before, but once you get hardware in there, you can really see how tight the space is. And if you wanted to install a 360mm radiator, the only place you can do that is in the front mounting location, and that requires you to take the HDD cage and actually slide it backwards and mount it into a secondary position that's back there. The problem is that puts it even closer to the power supply than it already was, and that's really going to make it difficult to manage all your cables. Overall, the PureBase 500DX from Be Quiet's got a lot going for it. It's a pretty solid mid-tower case that's got enough airflow to support high-end components and even overclocking, which I think is its best feature. Add to that the power supply shroud, the dust filters, the gorgeous looks, and RGB lighting right out of the box, and it's gonna be really tough to beat this mid-tower at its price point of $100 US. The downsides are mostly just space limitations for certain hardware, for radiators, for cable management, but that's not really a fault of the 500DX. That's just the mid-tower form factor in general. So it's really not a bad thing. And for $100 US, this thing offers a whole lot. So I'm going to put the purchasing links down in the description. If you pick one of these up, leave us a comment and let us know what you think about it. And while you're here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. And we'll see ya.